So, welcome to the London Food Network podcast, powered by Embrace AI Consultancy. So, I'm your host, Sebastian Candelon, founder of the Fresh Fish Shop and Embrace AI Consultancy, where we help food and drink businesses scale smarter with automation and AI. The podcast is all about real conversations with real people shaping the future of food and drink, the entrepreneurs, makers, visionaries who are rethinking how great products reach the world. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Riccardo Berto, founder of Divina Wines. So Divina Wines is a UK-based importer, distributor specializing in premium small producer Italian wines. Divina Wines is about much more than bottles. It's about stories, heritage, and connecting people with real essence of Italian winemaking. Riccardo has built a business that combines tradition with innovation, supplying some of the finest restaurants, retailers, and wine lovers across the country. So today we'll be diving into his journey and how he built Divina Wines, the challenges of growing a wine business in such a competitive market, and how technology systems and smarter AI can help businesses like this thrive in the modern landscape. So, Riccardo, that's enough introduction. Let's get into it.
What an intro. I loved it.
Thank you, man. That's a lot of work goes into these things, a lot of background time. But, we had a chat already, Riccardo. I was really looking forward to this because the story, as always, is way more complex than when you first reach out to somebody. And I want to bring your story forward. So first,
It always is.
what inspired you to create Divina Wines, and what gap did you see in the UK for that?
Okay, so let's give you the kind of like short answer and then we can expand if you'd like to. I grew up with a sister who didn't like the strong taste of alcohol, so anything I did was to try and create a product for her and for people like her who also don't like the strong taste of alcohol. In the meantime, I also stopped drinking myself. Then I went back on drinking, but I wasn't fully satisfied with what the market was offering. And that's why I created a 6% sparkling wine, which at the time that I thought of it, it didn't exist yet. And still now, there's only a few players that are doing it. It's still very untapped market. The idea is that sometimes you feel like you want to have a glass of wine and have all of the pros and cons that come with a traditional 12% ABV glass of wine. Other times you want the act of having a glass of wine, you want the taste of having a glass of wine, but you don't want the after, let's call it the morning after problems of having a couple of glasses or even just one glass. Because in a world where everybody goes to the gym or everybody's trying to be more health conscious, everybody's trying to become a better version of themselves. On a Tuesday night, you're at the pub with your colleagues. You want to have a glass with them. You don't just want to stick to a Diet Coke. What is there in the market that could satisfy that craving for that occasion, if not a 6% glass of wine? So you get half the amount of alcohol, which means you can have 2 glasses instead of 1 and have the same amount of alcohol, but you can actually just have 1 glass, go back home, and it will be the equivalent of having, say, a light beer, even very light beer or like a small light beer, which means the effect, obviously, the research is a bit vague at the moment. It doesn't really say at what point the amount of alcohol you get affects you or doesn't affect your sleep, health, and so on and so forth. But I think on one thing we can all agree, the less you have, the better. And so that's why we're sticking to 6%.
Do you know, I love that story. And I tell you what, Riccardo, I've been interviewing people from all kind of spectrums in the drink industry. And, one was producing a 0.5% cider. There was another lady that created a 0% kind of mixer. So basically you can drink it as a non-alcoholic drink or add a whatever mixer into it to make your drink, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of innovation going behind that with the same theme you just pointed at. And I'm the same. I'm 42 years old. And I tell you what, when I have a glass of wine, I know about it for a while. And
you feel it.
Or whatever. You feel it. And like you say, I go to the gym, I work out. Maybe that's why, because generally speaking, I'm fairly healthy. So when I put something in my body, I do feel the effect. And one thing that stops me from maybe socializing more is this exact problem. Where do you go with people that want to have a drink and not sit there like a lemon with a bloody Coca-Cola? You know what I mean? It's a stupid kind of mindset, I guess, but
it is.
Ultimately, you need this kind of solution, right? So well done for thinking about it. I think that's a great idea. And it's this kind of like middle ground, isn't it? Between nothing at all and getting a little bit too much.
Exactly. So I don't believe the world we live in is made of extremists. I think the vast majority of people are always somewhat in the middle of things, right? So in a world where full strength wine has always existed, now there's 0% wine. To me, it just makes sense that at some point we're going to move towards the middle. Moderation over
Yeah, right.
elimination. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of common theme again in the food industry now, where you're getting all these kind of extremes from carnivore diet to keto diet. And ultimately, I guess the truth is somewhere in the middle as well. It's like, listen, you can't just have meat. You can't just have vegetables. You can, you know what I mean? It's just got to be a middle ground because that's the realistic way to look at it,
Exactly.
right?
Sustainable.
So I'm curious actually, Ricardo, is how did you create that? You know, how did you? Let's go back to the beginning on that one. So you had the idea
Yeah.
to find a wine that was less in alcohol, or you found the wine that had less alcohol and you thought, ah, this is great.
I actually did the other way around. So in my head was like, I'm gonna start with taste. How do I get to a point where you can't taste the alcohol anymore? Whatever way that is, completely open for ideas. I traveled a lot, I went to try different wines, and then I actually went back to my hometown where I literally grew up.
Well,
And I remembered that we do this kind of like spumante, so it's like
yeah,
wine with bubbles, a sparkling wine. But instead of using the traditional, not very sweet grapes that we use for Prosecco or sparkling wine, we use this Moscato Giallo grapes, which is a grape that's usually used for dessert wines. So naturally sweeter, such a fruity flavor profile. And it's a wine that it's always used as an introduction to the wine industry for people, especially where I'm from. But it never quite took off the way that I wanted it to. I always felt like it had so much more potential if somebody just went in and tweaked a few things. And that's what I did. I went back, I found that the flavor profile was exactly what I wanted it to be. And it basically tasted like a sweeter, lighter version than Prosecco. And whenever I was in a social scenario, I always realized, even if you just add a little splash of orange juice, for example, to a glass of Prosecco, chances are that 8 out of 10 people at the table are going to prefer it in a little more light and sweet way rather than the traditional dry sparkling wine way. And then I just thought, instead of adding juice or like making something that's not really,
yeah, like
I don't know,
yeah,
a
yeah,
product end to end, how do we get there without having to add orange
yeah.
juice, let's say, and with actually 40 years of winemaking in the back pocket? And that's how we got there. We took a product that already somewhat existed and we just brought it to the next level. Like the difference between what we started with and where we ended up, even when people try it in the on trade, like a restaurant and bars, they always say, I feel like I've had something like this before, but not quite like this. This is another level. They always compare it to Moscato d'Asti. So Moscato d'Asti is this similar concept to what we are doing. Just imagine driving in a Fiat 500 versus a very, very comforting, long wheelbase luxury car. That's the difference between what already exists and what we ended up doing. So, yeah, that's it. We started with taste, and it just so happened that the alcohol percentage needed to reach that taste was 6% for us.
Nice. That is interesting because I mean, most wines are what, between 12 and 14%, I guess. That's the kind of
Yeah,
average.
white wine is 12, 10, 11, 12 and above. Sparkling, 12 and above. Red, you can go even higher than
Yeah,
12,
yeah,
13,
yeah.
14. Yeah.
And since you first started, I mean, and why the UK, and how did it start, and what was your kind of goal then, and where are you now, and where are you going?
So the reason why I started this business is because I had a successful small exit from my first ever business that I created when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
That was in a completely different field, cryptocurrency mining. It
No
was
way.
right time, right market, with the right co-founder. I just sold it back to him, my share, and then I just took a couple of months, just really sit back and understand what is it that I want to spend the rest of my life doing. And then it just so happened that I had this dinner with friends and we had a conversation about alcohol and how we thought the world was going and which directions we were gonna think the world was gonna go. And then I just decided, okay, it's time that I do something that I actually want to do, not just something that pays the bills.
Yeah,
And to
right.
me, being brought up in a restaurant, winery, and like hospitality businesses my whole life, it was just the next best step to just go into hospitality business, but as a supplier rather than an operator.
Wow. And obviously running a wine import and distribution business is incredibly complex. I mean, God knows how many laws, taxes, logistical problems, storage. I mean, you name it, right? It's a vast network of problems. So,
Very vast.
how do you get through it, and what parts of this process takes the kind of love out of it, or is it something that you particularly enjoy, kind of resolving these kind of complex problems that are so common in this kind of industry?
So on my side, I have the support of a very big distributor that's covering my production side of things. Initially I wanted to do the production myself, but that was gonna mean that one bottle was gonna cost me X, what it was otherwise gonna cost me if I was to use a bigger production facility that they already had everything in place, right? So working with them, it also means that I got access to all of the headaches sorted basically. So they already solved the problems before I even knew they existed
Nice.
for 50% of it. And the other 50% of it is just the UK stuff, which nowadays I have to be very honest with ChatGPT. I didn't find it particularly challenging.
Nice.
Everything is on there. You can ask for step-by-step guides. Just, I need to get this license. Give me a step-by-step process on how exactly I need to get it, write the emails I need to write, check that all the requirements that I need to have.
Nice.
There is some dead times, like from when you make applications to when you get the results of the applications to when you get the licenses. But if you're smart and you just do all of the bureaucratic stuff in the beginning, then you have like those 2 to 3 months when you're just waiting on things that you can actually use to market your product and really do all the other things that have longer time horizons.
And well, let's get into the marketing side. I mean, to the listeners now, they want to know, I guess, where can I buy this? What's your kind of route to market? Are you distributing online? Do you sell to retail? Do you sell to the food service? Where do we see Divina Wines?
So what initially, if you asked me this question 6 months ago, I would have probably told you we're a B2C brand. So we are going hard on social media. We're really trying to understand this business. And then I actually decided, instead of doing what everybody else is doing, just because important people tell you it's the right thing to do, I decided to play on my strengths, which were not social media. And it's instead relationship building and working with the on-trade. That for people that don't know where the on-trade is simply restaurants, bars, wineries. So actual places where you go into and you can buy a glass of wine there.
Hospitality, I guess we can call it, or F&B.
Hospitality, let's call it hospitality.
Yeah.
And so after these 6 months of relentless work, I've tried to do everything I could to understand the social media side of things. It went well. We had a few sales, we had a few interesting partnerships, but it just wasn't bringing it home for the way that I wanted it to. So now I've literally stopped dedicating time to social media all of a sudden. Obviously, you still do what you have to do, but it's not to the level where I want it to be, and that it needs to be to actually generate volumes. But now I'm going 100% back on the on-trade hospitality and just spending my days knocking on doors, getting my face out there, understanding who to speak to, getting conversations going, speaking to the operators, because that's the most important thing. If you're good at e-commerce and that's where your strengths are, by all means, develop B2C, and then whether you sell wine, a blanket, or a curtain, it doesn't really matter because you're selling online. It's just a matter of having a good way from production to supplying to delivering, and a good funnel that just makes everything work well. But when you're trying to build a brand of the scale that I'm trying to, I just feel like the on-trade is something that at one point of the journey, I'm gonna have to develop better. And I might as well do it now, which is also what I think I'll be best at, and then think about the B2C later on down the line.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think to build a good brand, and also you want volume. I presume
Yes,
with your business or anything to do with this kind of products and imports, I think volume is very important because
it's king.
Yeah, your volume, the volume will, I'd imagine, dictate a lot the end cost of that particular product. So the more you're bringing in,
Absolutely.
the better the price becomes, of course. Again, hospitality in general, I mean, is a very good kind of funnel in itself, isn't it, to getting the brand out? Because oftentimes the beauty about wines and drinks is that on a menu, like for example, for me in seafood, right, I can sell you the most beautiful piece of cod in the world on your restaurant menu. You think they're going to say Sebastian's cod or even the Fresh Fish Shop's cod? Of course not. It's going to be disguised as whatever, right? They're like, I lose my entire identity as a business and a person the minute that enters their building. But For you, it's the opposite. It's like they're going to talk about the wine, the bottle, and the sommelier will ideally have a bit of a background story as well. So you've got this kind of like active salesman doing the job for you when you do get to the right places, and they're educating the public, and your brand is being
Exactly.
put on the menus left, right, and center. And menus now available online as well, right? It's all digital. So
Absolutely.
yeah, good
I
strategy.
think the thing is, whether you want to go the B2C side first and then do B2B, or whether you want to do the B2B side first and then B2C, I don't think that's the right way to do things nowadays. Just do what you think is right, because at the end, 50 years from now, it's not even going to matter. And then once you're dead, nobody's even going to care.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
just live your life how you want to live it. If you think you'll hate yourself less by doing 100 visits to hospitality restaurants and bars and venues instead of doing 100 videos online and more or less get the same results, by all means, do what you prefer to do and what you think is best. And you can always go back and do what you were doing
Well,
before as
we
well.
were
But
discussing this before the recording, isn't it? And
exactly,
it's such an important point because I think, I mean, it's a fine line between obviously doing the things that also need doing, but then also having the choice as to what direction you go, you know, and that's why we run a business in the first place at the end of the day, isn't it? It's because we want to be able to do things our way and
absolutely.
find our own ways to navigate through a very complex market, whichever direction you go. And what at the end of the day, what's going to make your business successful, unless you've got a ton of money behind you, is your own
Yeah.
determination and the grit and the kind of consistency you develop and the discipline. And let's be honest, discipline and consistency is much better to achieve when it's something you actually enjoy. Then you're willing to put in the time,
So true.
you're willing to put in the
So true.
sacrifices, you're willing to be knocked down and get up again, because ultimately that's what drives you is the wanting to do it.
Exactly. And you don't hate yourself in the morning when you have to wake up, film 3 videos, you don't know where to start. Like,
Yeah.
just to kind of talk about this, I didn't have, I probably used Instagram, TikTok, and social medias 30 minutes a week. And even I'm in my 20s, the average person uses it 3-4 hours a day. And 6 months ago, I decided, you know what? I'm now going to start spending 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, like everybody else on social media, even though I've never used it. I don't know how it works. I absolutely hate it. What was I thinking? Why was I going to have a chance compared to somebody that's been doing TikTok videos since 10 years ago? They know exactly how everything works. Like, I
Well,
didn't know how to
and the key
upload a
is they
video,
enjoy it. They enjoy it. That's why my social
and
media in the
they
past
enjoy it.
has always been very inconsistent, because unless I employ someone that is what they enjoy to do, does it,
Yeah,
I honestly have no interest in social
exactly,
media. Personally, I see the value in it, of course. But you know, you either, it's a bit like Marmite, I find, with social media. You either love it and get it, or you just see it as a tool, really,
exactly.
to
And
free one.
anybody that says you need it to succeed, I think that's something that I've learned to disagree with. You don't need anything to succeed. Because let's run this question. Can somebody become a millionaire without a social media page?
Yeah.
Yes. So if a person can a company? Maybe yes. I know many friends that make multiple 6-7 figures a year and they don't even have a LinkedIn profile, which is supposed to be the profile to have if you're doing B2B sales. And these are people that speak to other business owners and sell B2B services. So if you're not on LinkedIn, what are you doing? Right? Yet, I really think, can you have a successful business without having people looking at you on social media? I really think the answer is yes. Then can you have a 6-figure versus an 8-figure business without social media? That's a different kind of questions. But when you're starting out, you only have 24 hours in a day. You don't even know whether what you have is something that the market wants. I strongly, strongly believe just find one way to sell, whether it's B2B or B2C, and further down, go niche, do one thing, but do it absolutely well. That's how you can get that ball rolling. Because once it's rolling, it's easier to attach things to it and make everything roll faster.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have capital, you're going to have proof of concept, you're going to know whether people buy because they want half the alcohol or because they want better taste.
Mm-hmm.
What's a bigger motivator? Do people buy the product because they prefer to have 2 glasses instead of one, or because they're still going to have 1 glass but not feel the effect the morning after? What I'm doing at the moment is trying to find that out. Whether I find out about this doing paid ads, whether I find out about this looking at sales data, while those very same sales are what's sustaining me and paying me
You're right.
a salary in the meantime, what's the difference?
That's a lot of information there. And I was thinking about what you were saying about the social media and if you need it or not. And I don't know, I'm still of an age that I come from this kind of analog era where there was none of this stuff. And I'm still fairly traditional in the way that I do business. But having said that, at the same time, I do see significant advantages to being able to leverage this kind of tool.
Absolutely.
And essentially, it's a bit like this. You know, you can get from A to B in a horse or by foot. You can get from A to B in a Ferrari or a spaceship, if you like. I mean, there's multiple ways. All roads lead to Rome. But I guess what
So
social
true.
media does, it kind of accelerates that process. But, you know, like, for example, in using a combustion engine over a horse or your own feet, there's potentially more kind of damage, if you like, being caused as collateral damage along the way. Everything is a trade-off, isn't it? I mean, I know Steve Bartlett always goes on about this, and it's so true. I always think about it in this way. I think, you know, realistically in life, you can do without pretty much 99% of things that we get sold that we
Yeah.
need, right? Because every time you use something, there's always a trade-off. Everything is a trade-off. Every choice
So
you
true.
make is a trade-off. And I guess the key with this, and also with social media, marketing, B2C, everything, it just comes down to one thing, and that is your own choices, which are made, I guess, based on your own lived experiences and to the kind of integrity you want to keep as well as to how you want to kind of progress in life.
I found myself, to use your analogy, I found myself inside this Ferrari and I didn't know where to put the keys, how to turn it on.
Right.
I didn't know it needed fuel. I didn't know
Yeah, right.
you need wheels. Like,
Yeah,
I
right.
was just in this thing, super. I could see the potential. I could see other people doing it, but I was so clueless on how to use it, which I would have way rather be on a horse and just panicking on top of the horse because I also don't know how to ride a
Yeah.
horse. But at least if I give it 2 slaps in the back, then maybe the horse is gonna go straight. Like, I can maneuver it a bit more.
Yeah.
Right? And worst case scenario, can jump off the horse and go by foot.
Yeah, I mean,
So
that's a good analogy. I mean, the same analogy would be like this is yeah, the more fast you get somewhere, the more technology has a hand to play in it.
yeah,
You know, I'm going to talk about it because AI is such a hot topic, and a big part of what I started, you know, implementing in my own business, purely because we are finding now that, you know, AI is kind of bridging this gap between, like you say, this kind of having the technology available, but not quite understanding how to use it, to now having this kind of almost middleman, which is AI, that bridges the gap between someone that doesn't know how to drive the Ferrari to someone that does. And you know, like you said, ChatGPT, for example, right, gives you an entire playbook on how to say pretty much anything you like. And I think with the right understanding of AI as a tool, then you can drive a Ferrari now. And, you know, you
yeah,
can do all these different things using the tools that are available very recently that we've never had available before. So, I mean, even social media content, you know, with the consultancy I run, it's crazy. Like, I can automate your entire campaigns, so you don't even have to do any of this stuff. It's crazy. Like nowadays, I mean, you've seen, I'm sure, on Instagram and all the rest of it, you can create videos now that look pretty much 100% real. You can create avatars that look just like you. I mean, it's insane the rate in which all these things are developing. And very soon, I think we'll be living in a world where, I mean, you won't have to do much at all. You'll have to just have a conversation with your AI and it's going to crack on and get on with it. So, yeah, so I think
I
it's a
can't
very
wait for those days.
well, it's coming, isn't it? I mean, already it's crazy. In the small amount of time I've been kind of fine tuning my skills in this kind of sector, it's like the development of all these different tools is so fast. And I think, particularly in business, I find it really exciting because do you know what? I've been running a business for 20 years,
Yeah.
and it's hard. You know, particularly in the food industry. The food industry is a very unforgiving, food and drink when I talk about food, by the way,
Mhm.
very unforgiving industry. And I'm sure it was the same for you. I mean, crap, you've decided to bring a product to market that's probably like one of the most saturated products probably in the marketplace, right? And here you are bringing something that's, you know, a little bit different and you're getting that product through the door. And without ChatGPT, just with that simple setup, maybe you wouldn't be here today selling what you're selling because maybe the overwhelm of all the,
100%.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like
100%.
we are increasingly in a world where actually even the the most minute idea can turn into this full-on materialization of that idea with very little actual energy being used to make it. You know, back when I started a business, believe me, man, everything was even pen to paper back then. You know, everybody was pen to paper. I'd go to the market with cash.
Yeah.
And I would go and buy my fish, and everyone would write down in cash my receipts. Everything was, you know, and I've seen that whole development to now. And I think if we can use these tools these days, believe me, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to be, because it is a struggle, or it was a struggle, and now it doesn't need to be a struggle.
What I always tell to my friends, that because I like to think that I know how to use AI, simply because I'm on ChatGPT 2 to 3 hours a day. But I'm very conscious that I've learned what I've learned a year ago. And in this super fast landscape, like I'm not using AI agents, for example, which I already know I'm not part of the top 10% of the population, of the AI population, because I'm only using ChatGPT very well. So there's levels to this. And I think for people that are not using AI at the moment, one thing they can just do is just go on ChatGPT and just any questions you have, just ask ChatGPT. Like it might be, I just dropped a bit of tomato sauce on my shirt. How do I clean it? You'll be surprised that some stains you need to use cold water, some stains you need to use hot water. How else would you know unless your grandma taught you when you
Yeah,
were young
right.
and you dirtied yourself? Maybe use sparkling water instead of, like, all of these little things. And then what's the difference between baking soda and bicarbonate? What's the other one? There's
Yeah,
baking soda
yeah,
and bicarbonate of
yeah,
soda, something like
yeah,
that. Absolutely no clue. If you look online, you get you get more questions than answers. Just try to answer all of these more questions with ChatGPT. And once you're confident in understanding that ChatGPT is a tool, it's not just a dictionary for truth, then you understand its limitations as well. But just know that that's step one. There's 5 more steps that you can take until you reach your stage, for example, where you're having podcast conversations that are fully automated by AI, and you just get people in your calendar without even having to talk to them.
Yeah, right.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
Crazy.
I mean, it surprised me every minute. Yeah, it's an interesting world we live in, and thinking about this world we live in, you know, with all of this in mind, Riccardo, I'm curious, what's your plans for the future then? Where do you see Divina Wines developing
Yeah.
over the next 12, 18 months, or even the next 6 months? I'm sure it's moving quickly. Just the other day, I saw you post on LinkedIn a major win, actually, which sounded really
Yeah.
exciting. So,
They're
you know,
starting to come in.
so tell us about that. So what is the future like for Divina Wines, and you know, how are you going to get there? And what challenges do you foresee to get there?
Okay, good question. So the way that I think about business at this stage in my life is that I think you can make any business work, whether you're selling blankets, candies, laptops. You can literally make money with anything. It's just a matter of understanding whether you're in the right opportunity vehicle for what you're trying to achieve. So this is just a premise to say what? That since you can sell anything, you can obviously find a way to make money selling anything, whether it's wine, whether it's blankets, whether it's candies. Again, now, why am I saying this? Because just because you're getting some success with something, it doesn't necessarily mean that the market craves what you're trying to sell. Simply, it can mean many things. Maybe it's the right time for that product. Maybe you're just a good salesman. So for me, it's very important before I decide to dedicate the next, say, 20 years of my life in the pursuit of this project as if my life depended on it. I go in stages, in seasons. So now I'm at the season where I'm looking for product market fit. Am I selling something that people want? And that's the only questions that I'm trying to get to. Even sometimes I'm in front of people that they say, like, we're not going to be able to buy it for that price, but we can buy it for this price. And I know that I can still make a bit of money at this price. But what I'm trying to do is see whether there's product market fit at this price. Because, like, we all love iPhones and we all buy them, right? But what if iPhone costs 50K per iPhone? What if one iPhone costed 50K? Would you still buy it?
No, of
I'm
course.
not sure. So it's not just about how ingenious a product is and how good the product is. It's also its relationship to the price. Are you solving a pain that's big enough that people are willing to spend what you're charging to solve that pain? So for me, We always want to go quality first. That's why we're pretty much more expensive than anybody else that's doing something similar to us. We're sometimes 3 times more expensive, but it's either going to work like this, or I'm not willing to compromise on quality as part of my own morals and the way that I operate.
Yeah,
I want
absolutely.
to do this product in a premium way, and it either works this way, or I'm very happy to go and do something else.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
this is just,
that's a
yeah,
great point to cover, by the way, because this is a point I think you get to a crossroads eventually, I think, in food or business where, in order to scale, you have to make decisions. Always some of those decisions is, okay, well, if I need to scale, A, I'm going to need a lot more money, or B, or both A and B, I'm going to have to drop my price in order to meet that broader market. I'm going to have to increase my cost to produce that because I need way more bigger premises. And with that comes all the red tape. When you're bigger, especially in the food and drink industry,
yeah,
you start needing quality managers. The legislation becomes more strict, and then you kind of start losing a little bit of touch. And then that's when I think a lot of businesses kind of choose, like I did. I guess I chose to remain at a level where I still keep my quality and, I guess, authenticity, if you like, within the product that I sell. And that point varies
absolutely.
enormously between businesses and between industries, and I think it's good to recognize that actually at some point.
If you can make money with anything you sell, why not sell something that you're proud of?
Right.
Because why would you ever, just to make money, sell something that you're not proud of? To me, that makes no sense. Then, if you're working for money, just go and have a very good 9 to 5 with great security. You can make equally as much money. I really think most managers make more than the average entrepreneur in
Yeah,
any country,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
if you're playing for money, then optimize for money by all means. But I'm not playing for money. I'm playing for being proud of what I do and waking up with a smile every day. And I feel like compromising on certain aspects is not going to get me there. So that's why, to answer your question, I'm in a season of product market fit. I'm here with an idea of what I want to achieve. And about March next year is going to be the time where I sit down, I do a few calculations, I understand whether what I thought was the case is actually the case. And then if everything is positive, we'll probably proceed to phase 2, which is moving a bit of numbers and start going a bit bigger and heavier, if that makes sense. So actually scaling a bit.
Nice. Well, it's good to have the kind of timeline for these things as well. Otherwise, we can get a little bit lost along the way. Nice. Well, Riccardo, this has been a great podcast. We've kind of we kind of went everywhere with this one, which is great.
Yeah.
Really interesting products. I think what you've brought to market is definitely fitting with what society, I think, has moved towards. Yeah, I think we probably haven't discussed enough as well the versatility of the product and where else it can be found, or what other kind of markets it could potentially appeal to, and as a mixer, everything else. So I wanted to say thank you for coming on the podcast, and for all of us listening. And make sure to check out divinawines.com to explore their incredible range of wines and discover the stories behind each bottle. I'm Sebastian from the London Food Network podcast, powered by Embrace AI Consultancy. See you on the next one.